Scallywags. Gotta turn the radio down. That was the Heart Sisters, Crazy on You. Crazy on You. Ain't that a kick in the head? My head'll be spinning. My life will be beautiful and oh fuck. What are we gonna talk about today, guys? Lord have mercy, Amy's got her blue jeans on. Down on the corner by the traffic light. Everybody's watching as she goes by. They turn their heads and they watch her till she's gone. Lord have mercy, Amy's got her blue jeans on. She can't help it if she's made that way. She's not to blame when they look her way. She ain't really trying to cause a scene. It just comes naturally. Oh, the girl can't help it. Mel McDaniels. Baby's got her blue jeans on. I got arthritic elbows, boy, I got dislocated knees from picking fights with thunderstorms and charging into trees. My nose been broke so often I might lose it if I sneeze. And son, you say you still want to be a winner? As I rode into Tombstone on my horse, his name is Mac, I saw what I'll relate to you going on behind my back. It seems that folks were up in arms. A man now had to die for believing things that didn't fit the laws they set aside. The man's name was I'm a Freak, the best that I could see. He was the executioner, a hangman just like me. I guess that he'd seen loopholes working with his rope. He'd hung the wrong man many times, so now he turned to hope. He talked to all the people from his scaffold in the square, told them of the things he found, but they didn't seem to care. They finally arrested Freak, and then they said for me to hang my fellow hangman from a fellow hangman's tree. It didn't take them long to try him in their court of law. He was guilty then of thinking a crime much worse than all. They sentenced him to die so his seed of thought can't spread and infect the little children. That's what the law had said. So the hanging day came round and he walked up to the noose. I pulled the lever, but before he fell, I cut him loose. They called it all conspiracy and that I had to die. So to close our mouths and kill our minds, they hung us side by side. And now we're two hangmen hanging from a tree. That don't bother me at all. Two hangmen hanging from a tree. That don't bother me at all. You know, that's straight business executives. That's the straightest business. You know the business. Yeah, Johnny come back into town to go to court. He's thinking about missing court, and I told him, man, you know, the days of running are over. The days of being able to run started ending back when they come up with the photograph and the telegraph. But nowadays, they got cameras on every other corner. Cell phones, they know where you're at, what you're doing 24/7. Satellites in outer space that can read your license plate. I understand he's not wanting to go back to prison. He's already spent 22 years in there. The brothers, Illinois got that damn Safety Act, they call it. You can literally, second-degree murder, get released without bail, and they don't come get you till you miss your second court date. He was saying, yeah, man, if they didn't do that, I'd only have one felony instead of 4. I said, you can't blame him for that, bro. Can't blame him for that. And the shit he's getting popped for, he's not hurting nobody but himself, but he ain't got no, it ain't like it's a violent crime or nothing, but the thing is, he's the same as me. He's on that federal database, that gang database, as a prison gang member. He's got all his past shit, you know. That shit adds up. And he's managed to rack up 4 Class X felonies in different counties to boot. Each one carries 6 to 30 years. So what's that? Technically 24 to 120 years he can get. And then he came back to go to court, and he missed his court date. He's been trying to get hold of his lawyer. It ain't like back in the day. Back in the day, you call up the county, and they'll let you know if you got a warrant or not. They ain't telling him shit. And he ain't heard from his lawyer, so he's thinking everything. He's probably got another court date. He said if he had a warrant out, his lawyer would have called him. Just sucks. I mean, he gets out of prison and rinse and repeat, man. Been doing this shit since he was 16 years old. And the brother's got a lot of potential, man. He's a good dude. If it wasn't for Johnny, I might not even be alive. when we met, we got into it. He ended up, I pulled a knife out, had it up to his throat, and a mutual friend of ours said, "Come on, Mark, let him up, man." So I let him up, and I left about a half hour later from that party, and he showed up later on with the pistol to shoot me. And that same mutual friend of ours said, "Man, don't shoot Mark. Mark's cool, man. Don't fucking shoot Mark." And we started hanging out, became brothers. And then he was working in Bureau of Identification at the Max whenever I got sent down to Menard. And he saw my name come across in the paperwork. He knew I was coming before I even got there. Well, I got there and an organization told me I had to cover up a tattoo. The smart thing would have been to cover it up. My other brothers have the same tattoo. They covered it up. That's the smart thing to do. I didn't. I don't like being told what the fuck to do. And they say, "Whatever, white boy, you got a week, you know." And I'm not going to say that didn't scare me. But I kept it out of my eyes. I kept it out of my walk. I figure I'm just going to have to deal with it. Because I ain't going to be told what the fuck to do. It's not going to happen. I'm anti-authoritarian. I don't like being told what to do. And I thought this is going to be bad, but here we go. And then the very next day, I'm out in the yard, and this dude comes up to me, asked me if my name's Mark so-and-so. I said, "Yeah. What of it, man? You know," I thought, here we go again. This is somebody I beat up their cousin, or who the fuck knows. And then he asked if I knew Johnny. I said, "Yeah, I know Johnny." He said, "Well, Johnny said you're pretty scrappy, man. You want to ride with us?" Gave me the rundown. I figured, sure. Might help with that other organization, and it did. But I didn't know what I was getting into. I mean, nobody rides for free. Nobody rides for free. But point is, if he hadn't seen my paperwork come across and put a word in for me, it could have been real bad for me. Real bad. I was scrappy, but never that scrappy. You're going to take on a whole organization, a lot of them doing life sentences. I was never that scrappy. And the gang violence in prison, the brutality goes up a notch. You ain't got the luxury of driving by with a gun shooting at people. You got to get up close and shove steel up in them. Or fiberglass, whatever your shank's made out of. But it's kind of weird. We started out as enemies. Then we're like brothers now, you know. And I'm glad he listened to me. I mean, if they got to come get you, they're just going to give you more time. The problem is, you know, he's 57 this year and I'm 58. And double digits could damn well be a life sentence. You never know. Ain't getting no younger, and our bodies are already beat to hell. I just told him the same thing. You know, my pops told me I was on the run for a while when they were looking for me for robbing that gas station. And my dad said, you know, let's say you, by some miracle, you go somewhere else and you get your life together. He said, things are going good for you. And then one day, you know, there's a knock on that door, and everything you built up, you lose. And he was right. Plus, my lawyer, a buddy of mine, got me a damn good lawyer, man. I mean, damn good lawyer. The best criminal defense lawyer in the area that I was living in. He went on to try to be a state prosecutor and everything, but he kept telling me, you turn yourself in, I can get you a much better deal, Mark. And I finally turned myself in because my dad asked me to. And he did give me a good deal. He did give me a real good deal. But I know how hard it is turning yourself in. I mean, every instinct is to keep running. And that marshal they had hunting me down, he was son of a bitch, like a bloodhound. He was like a damn bloodhound. But I mean, it sucks that the brother's looking at that much time. He's not hurting nobody but himself. But the law's the law. And what I don't like it is the hypocrisy of the law. Wanting to send him, and his weakness is that white shit. Wanting to send him in for messing with that white, getting caught with it, and that Iran-Contra deal, CIA let that shit come in unabated into this country from South America for a price to fund their Iran-Contra thing. The government could bring the dope in, pump it into our poor communities. Nobody else can. It's like marijuana. There was a time you get a pretty good chunk of time over some pot. Now they figured out they could tax it and make money off it, so it's okay now, you know. And the pharmaceutical companies that lobby these politicians, they're the biggest dope dealers in the country. Most of the people I know that have overdosed and got strung out on heroin, they all started, almost all of them, getting pain meds from the doctors. For a long time, them doctors were going crazy just handing out them scripts left and right. And then the feds come down on them. And they had a bunch of addicted people, couldn't get their pain meds no more, and figured out that heroin was cheaper. I'm glad I got off everything, though, before this fentanyl hit the bricks like it has. I know some people that are still actively using, and every one of them says this fentanyl, the withdrawals are much, much worse than the heroin, and I can't imagine that. I was in bed for 7 days going through heroin withdrawals. I was down to 149 pounds. 6 foot tall, 149 pounds. Right now, I'm 240 pounds. So, I mean, I've gained 80-something pounds. I had a pencil neck, and the crazy thing is, those opiates are like a hypnotic. You're just in, I used to call it my haze or my numbness. And looking in the mirror, I thought I looked fine. Shit. Looked like I had cancer and AIDS at the same time. I was running constantly, working my ass off. And then when I wasn't working, I was running dope down so I could work. Because I'll tell you something about heroin and those opiates. If you're truly addicted and you're having physical withdrawals, you ain't gonna fake them and just show up at work and act like everything's okay. The third day, I screamed most of the day. It was bad. It was real bad. But every day gets a little better, you know. I ain't gonna say I don't miss it, because I do. I think what really was addictive to me was, you know, I didn't realize this till I went to get help, but I told my buddy in Arizona, Mickey, I said, man, they ought to prescribe this for manic depressive bipolar people. I said, I'm happy all the time. And he said, yeah, you're happy, you're high. But until I went to get help and went to the classes and stuff, I didn't realize that there was actually a scientific chemical reason for that. That them opiates, they release dopamine in your brain, and dopamine gives you that euphoric sensation, you know? That's why I was feeling happy. And somebody that's manic depressive bipolar, and I'm depressed most of the time, that was a real draw for me, feeling happy like that. But you're only happy for a while. After a while, towards the end of my addiction, I wasn't happy. I was just trying to get normal, you know, just not be sick. And it was exhausting. Every single day you wake up, how much do I got? Where am I going to cop more, you know? And the whole time you're running and you're copping the dope, you got to keep in mind that the cops only got to get lucky one time. You got to get lucky every time and not get caught. I'm all tatted up, and any cop that's, you know, working as an officer can look at my tats and tell by that greenish color of most of them that I've been to prison. Plus, I'm on that federal gang database, red flag. So, you know, before the police even pull you over, they've ran your tags. And they know who I am. This car comes back in my name, and it says known prison gang member, extremely violent, dangerous, approach with caution. That's not who I am anymore, since God softened my heart. And I married the most loving, unselfish woman I've ever met 30 years ago. Well, 30 years this January. You know, I'm not that person anymore. I had a guy on Facebook call me, he was an old friend of mine. He goes, "What's up, Crazy Horse?" I said, "The guy that you knew as Crazy Horse, he don't exist no more. He died somewhere out there in Arizona, and I hope the son of a bitch don't never come back. Because I was a mean son of a bitch. It was not nice at all. Pretty heartless, pretty merciless. I did not like who I was. But God smiled on me. I backslid after I got saved. When I got saved the first time, I was my mom had put me in a psych ward, St. Elizabeth's, because I cut my wrist. Cut my wrist bad. They had to put all kinds of shit back together. You can still see the scar there. I cut across, and then they had to cut it at an angle. And the doctor had a pair of hemos, had a hold of the skin there, and they were sucking the blood trying to see what kind of damage I'd done, and I jammed them hemos up in my wrist. I remember I was coming to, and they're finishing putting that cast on, and he said, "Make sure you put that cast on tight. I don't want this crazy son of a bitch getting something up in there and tearing them stitches out." I went to the psych ward, and you guys won't believe this. I don't believe it. I don't know who it was. It was a trip though. This black woman named Mary. Every damn day she'd come to my room. "Jesus wants me to talk to you. All you got to do is repent, confess your sins, turn your life over to Jesus, be born again. Every day. And I mean, I cursed at this woman. I called her racial things. I threw fucking trays of food at her. And every damn morning, that woman would come back. And every morning, I'd cuss her. And I mean, she was relentless. And then I got a weekend pass. They had put me on lithium carbonate and some other drugs. And I got a weekend pass, and I went out and dosed up on LSD. Took a bunch of purple microdot. And got back, and the nurses, man, they seen them giant pupils, and they knew I was on something. And wake up the next day, and my mom's up there and with the psychiatrist. He called her up there, and they called me down there to his office, and he said, look, unless he goes to a drug rehab or something, I can't keep giving him these psych drugs. It's dangerous mixing them with street drugs. And I was, fuck you to my mother, went down the hall, told the nurses at the nurses station, fuck you to them too. And my mom was just in tears. I mean, in tears. And I had a hard time sleeping that night because I knew how bad I hurt my mom. And I said that prayer. Nothing happened. The next night I said that prayer, something most definitely happened. Something happened that was so powerful that it left no doubt in my mind that there was indeed a God. And I cried all night long, but it was like, it wasn't sad tears. I've never felt that kind of peace before or after. It's the most peaceful I have ever felt in my life. It was a powerful experience. And then I was waiting the next morning for Mary to come in, because I had to tell Mary what had happened. She never came in. I went up to the nurse's station, and I said, where's Mary? And she said, who are you talking about? I said, Mary, the black woman that's been coming to my room every damn day, the one I've been yelling and screaming at. They had no idea who I was talking about. And I never did find out who Mary was. But it's weird because that was a juvenile unit. And juvenile units are very private because they're juveniles. You can't just go walking up on a juvenile floor. But every morning she was there until I was saved. And then she quit coming. The very next day I'm wanting to tell her so bad what had happened. No Mary. It was strange. And I'm not saying that was the Blessed Mother Mary. I don't think I'm so special that she would come to me. I'm just saying it's damn weird that she comes every morning aggravating the hell out of me, pushing me. And then when I finally accept Christ, she stops coming without me even being able to talk to her. It was strange. But when they didn't know who Mary was, I went down, told the psychiatrist, tell my mother I'll go to drug rehab, and I was on fire, man, for about a year. I mean, on fire. And then I started hanging around, running with the old crowd, and I backslid for a lot of years. And then many years later in prison, God softened my heart. And in His infinite wisdom, He sent the most loving, unselfish woman I have ever met. Teach me how to love again. That's why I always say God has been more merciful with me than I ever deserved. And I am truly only alive by His good graces. I'm not so smart or so tough, or I'm only alive by the good graces of God. I have buried many, many men much better than me. Me and Nate and Johnny and Shane and Bobby. We got another brother, but he got deported to Germany. We all buried most of our friends by the time they were 35 years old. And they all died over stupid shit. Shot by cops, killed in drug deals, murdered. Most of them were drug overdoses. A few of them were suicides. There was like 35 of us at one time. And now, well, I forgot Youngblood, me, Bobby, Youngblood, Shane, Johnny, Tommy. There's 6 of us alive. 6 of us out of about 35. They all died young. Real young, over stupidity. Over stupidity. There ain't no future in it. I had a voice telling me, not a voice like you can hear, just that little voice in your head, you know. Oh, you're dying anyways, man. You might as well get back on them pain pills. You got all this anxiety, because believe me, dying, knowing that shit's getting real bad and you probably ain't got long, there's a lot of anxiety that goes along with that. I've tempted death my whole life. Had death running right alongside me, tempting death. Playing games with it. And now that it's getting close to time, I don't invite it so much. But there's a lot of anxiety that goes along with dying. What's going to happen to my wife? Is she going to be okay? A lot of things that go along with it. And I was thinking, you might as well get numb again. It would help with the anxiety. It'd help with the pain. Your body hurts every day. You're dying anyways. What difference does it make? And then I thought, you know what? I know this voice. Every single time I listen to this voice, it goes bad. I have learned how to distinguish between the evil one and between God. And that evil one is very slick. Sometimes you might think it's God saying something. He dresses it up real beautiful in a nice, beautiful package. I've gotten very good at discerning his voice. And every time I've listened to his voice, it went bad. I said out loud whenever I was thinking them thoughts, yeah, I'll listen to you. And I'll live another 15 years being strung out again. Those withdrawals. I went to the methadone clinic the first time. And then when I had that grand mal seizure and went off the roof and had the high impact fracture of the talus, I had to have surgery done, and they had to put screws in my foot and everything else. So they had to put me back on pain meds. And when I went the second time I got clean after the surgery and everything, I went cold turkey. And man, the withdrawals were vicious. The most dangerous to detox from is actually alcohol. If anybody, like if you're shaking when you get up in the morning till you get a drink, if you've got a physical addiction for alcohol, I highly suggest you go in the hospital and detox, because it is the most dangerous to detox off of alcohol. The second is Xanax or Valium, those benzodiazepines. Those benzos, you're on them for a long time, you have seizures when you go through withdrawals. They are the second most dangerous to detox off of. And it's also a deadly combination, benzodiazepines and opiates. I know a lot of people. One guy that was at the methadone clinic in his mid-20s, him and his girlfriend, they did some heroin, and us junkies like mixing those opiates with those benzos. It amplifies the buzz. He woke up next morning, she was dead in bed. She just quit breathing because the Valium, Xanax, it slows down your respiratory, and so does the opiates. She just went to sleep, stopped breathing. At the methadone clinic, you could drop dirty for heroin, for pain pills. They'd keep you in the program. You drop dirty for benzodiazepines, they immediately kick you out of the program. That's how deadly that combination of drugs is. And doctors prescribe the two all the time. But see, the doctors, many times I've had the pharmacists say, you can't take these at the same time. The doctors know this works for this works for this. But the pharmacist knows what you can and can't interact, together. It's always a good idea to check with your pharmacist if it's okay to take this with that. But yeah, man. I know that voice. But that was my numbness, man. I was just like in a haze on them opiates. It's totally numb. Physically and mentally numb. I felt nothing. Hey, baby, ¿qué pasó? I thought I was your only vato. Man, I hate it over here. I only come over here to see my brothers. Hate this fucking town. I got memories damn near every other block in this town. Seemed like back in the day we was always laughing, clowning. Just, somebody got that roof stock, gonna shingle that roof. Oye, como va? Bueno, Paco-san. Hey, baby, ¿qué pasó? I thought you were my only vato. I thought I was your only vato. Bow, 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 bow. There's a lot of strange men in cell block 10, but the strangest one of all was a friend of mine who spent his time staring at the wall, staring at the wall. Well, he looked at the wall so big and tall, you can hear him softly curse. Nobody at all ever climbed that wall, but I'm gonna be the first. I'm gonna be the first. Well, the warden walked by and said, son, don't try. I'd hate to see you fall, for there is no doubt they'll carry you out if you ever touch that wall. Ever touch that wall. Well, a year's gone by since he made his try, and I can still recall how hard he tried and the way he died, but he never made that wall. Never made that wall. There's never been a man ever shook this can, but I know a man who tried. The newspapers called it a jailbreak plan, but I know it was suicide. I know it was suicide. That bar right there's the bar. Whenever I first come back from Arizona, I went up in there and my buddy was getting a script filled across the street here. And right there, and I told the barmaid my name. I said, I'm just getting back in town. She goes, I know who you are. She said, you were driving and we got in an accident. And I thought, oh shit. I told her, I said, I'm sorry. And she goes, oh no, don't be sorry. And now I'm curious, you know. It's amazing the things I've forgotten in 15 years. But I said, well, you just said we got in an accident, and then now you're saying don't be sorry. She said she was hitchhiking, and I picked her up, and I had a buddy of mine, she named him by name, and there was some guy in the back seat. I think he was just some dude that was tagging around with us that day. But she said the guy in the back kept grabbing her in the crotch and her tits, and she kept, I remember that she's telling me it's coming back to me. She was screaming, you know, knock it off, and I got tired of listening to that shit, so I told him 2 times, I said, you need to knock that shit off, man. And then the 3rd time I told her that, the 3rd time she said, he started grabbing her and she started screaming. She goes, you forgot you were driving. I turned around and started punching him in the face and shit. And we were just going right down East Main, but it was back by McDonald's at North Belt back there. I was only doing like 35, but we, when I turned around and started punching him, we went off the road and hit the telephone pole. And she goes, then you got real mad. And I did get real mad. Drug him out of the car and was stomping on his head in the suicide lane, telling him, look what you made me do now, you stupid motherfucker. Told him 2 times to quit grabbing on her. I forgot all about that. That used to be my lawyer's office right there. Yeah, I forgot all about that whole thing. I forgot some of the shit I forgot about is absolutely insane. Wish I could forget about the stuff that I can't forget about. And right up here at these lights here is where the Nightlife Tavern used to be. That's where I got in a fight with that motorcycle club at 16 years old. That was the beating of a lifetime. It psychologically affected me that night. Every rib on both sides of my body was either broken or fractured. I had a ruptured testicle, and my eyes were so damn swollen shut that I couldn't see for a week and a half because I had a pumpkin head. I gave it hell. They started calling me the boy that wouldn't stay down. I thought they was going to beat me to death that night. The woman that owned the bar, her name was Freddie, and I swear she had a mustache. She come out with the shotgun, shot it up in the air, and she said, you get off that boy before you kill him. Those guys were cool to me later on. When the police got called up to the hospital, I didn't tell them shit. And I learned the hard way about motorcycle clubs, minding your own fucking business. But I'm at Shane's. My friends don't like cameras. But you all have a blessed day. Nothing but respect, scallywags. May all your ups and downs be in your bed, and don't let your meatloaf. Peace out, people. Be good to yourselves.